Which case are you here on? Oh, well, yeah, tell me again, Mr. Smith.
Your Honor, I'm here covering Crystal Haynes's case for Christine Donovan. She's already been found in violation. I think the court was doing a disposition of some sort on her case today.
Okay.
Judge, we have her.
We're on the record in, do we have Mr. Patterson? Yes, we do. We're on the record in 2021 CR 433, State of Kansas versus Crystal Dawn Haynes. Please announce appearances.
Your Honor, Brett Sweeney on behalf of the state.
Your Honor, Darren Patterson appearing on behalf of Crystal Haynes. Ms. Haynes has appeared at the courthouse Sallyport. Your Honor, this is a case where we had her in court last week for a probation violation. She did stipulate, the court accepted her stipulation and found violation. There was an agreement by the parties to reinstate her for 1 year, give her sanction time for the time that she had been in jail. I think the court was ready to proceed with that until the court started having some questions about her plan for probation. The statements previously were that she was homeless, living in that Douglas area, and it made it difficult for her to report. She has now come up with a plan. Your Honor, her plan would be that she is going to live with her sister, Terry Jo Haynes, that is in Augusta, Kansas, that her sister is a stay-at-home mother and will help her with transportation issues, including transportation to see probation, if and when they want to see her in person versus just see her by phone or call in. That will also afford her a local place to find employment. She has plans to have employment in the city of Augusta so that it's within reach of walking to versus any other method to get there, so she doesn't have to rely on people for day-to-day purposes of getting to work. That will allow her then to start paying on her case also. So that would be her plan, Judge. We would just ask court to adopt the previous recommendation of the credit for sanction time and reinstate for 1 year for probation.
Is this the same Terry Haynes that is familiar to the court? She's been here many times, Mr. Smith, Brian Smith, probation officer.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe that it is.
Mr. Smith, are you comfortable with these two living together with Ms. Haynes's history?
Your Honor, I'm not familiar with where Ms. Haynes is at currently, as far as being in trouble with the police or on probation. I would have to do further investigation to answer that question, Your Honor.
She's actually doing really well. She's been clean and sober for 3 years.
She's been what?
Clean and sober for 3 years. And honestly, I mean, not to be rude, but I'm not relying on her. That's just, I'm going to take care of me and myself. And whatever she does with her life does not and will not affect me. This has been a humbling, very humbling experience for me. And I know right from wrong, and I know what I need to do for myself. So please don't judge her for her life and what she's been through, because that has nothing to do with me.
Remind me who the victim of this trespass was. Mr. Sweeney, do you have that?
Second, Your Honor, this is originally a Miss Norris case, so let me go through and see if I can find that out. Looks like
go ahead.
Go ahead, Darren. Looks like
Iris
Washington, Worthington.
Iris Pearl Worthington.
What's your relationship, if any, to Miss Worthington, Miss Haynes?
Miss Worthington, I have no clue who that is.
So you don't even know whose property you were trespassing on?
No, I don't, because I wasn't never been there to be trespassing. That was, like I said, not one of my best moments. I actually was being chased down by a car and I walked through her yard. So,
Mr. Smith, do you think maybe we ought to give you some time to research her? She really doesn't have a plan. She just says, I'm going to move in with Terry and then I'm going to figure it out.
are you serious?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm covering this case for Christine
This is
Donovan. She
insane.
may be more familiar with the specific
No, just give me in here just
case, but
Okay, Miss Haynes, please
Ma'am.
stop Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I would have to do some further investigation to determine the specifics, but yes, Your Honor, we generally do not like our clients, hanging around places that might be unsuitable. I'm not saying that's the case here, but we want to make sure that they are a good, suitable location that she can be successful in.
All right, if I put you to work on that today and set this over for whenever I can get it in again, maybe you can give me more information, Mr. Smith, would that be okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so Savannah, when's the next time you can fit this in for review again of her probation plan?
Can I have a bond, please?
Your probation's been revoked, Ms. Haynes.
So I'm assuming you want it soon since she's in jail.
Right, although, if she's gonna give me some attitude, I'm not sure she's gonna be workable on probation, but I'll let Mr. Patterson work with that. Go ahead, yeah, when you can fit her in.
I guess we can do October 16th because the court is closed on October 9th. So
Okay.
October 16th would be the next date. We already have 40 on there, so it'll take us to 41, but
Okay. All right, so October 16th at 9 a.m.
And Judge, may I make just a brief argument?
Sure, go ahead.
Judge, the previous plan that she had was all she had was to go to a homeless shelter. The court, it wasn't really favorable to that because that did not really give her much of a chance, in the court's opinion, to be successful in probation. She is indigent. She has currently no money, no job. Family is her next best option. So to exclude her family, I'm not sure where that puts her, but back at the homeless shelter. And then we're keeping an indigent person in jail because they don't have a place to live and go to and be on probation. So I'm concerned that she has a plan. It's up to her to make it work. But we're at this point saying that don't use that one. I guess we go back to square A, the homeless shelter.
All right, so are you implying that her probation was revoked because she didn't have any money?
She was yes, Judge. She was homeless, living in Douglas. She could not, because of that, it was really prohibitive for her to report, to drive to, she couldn't drive, she didn't have a car. So to
Okay,
get to
so
El Dorado was a problem.
All right, so she didn't report to her probation either, and
Yes.
and you're suggesting that her probation should not be revoked because she failed to report?
That's what the findings were. She stipulated to those violations: failure to pay, failure to report.
Even though she could have called, okay, so do we need to have a new hearing on that? I mean,
No, Judge, I'm just saying that I'm not sure what the court wants as far as a plan. She's provided a new plan because the homeless shelter is not working. So an indigent person has very few choices, but to keep them in jail because they're indigent, that's where I'm just having concern, Judge.
Mr. Patterson, you could make that argument all day long, that they didn't report because they were indigent. But if they don't report, then how can they ever be successful on probation? Money aside, we can take into consideration she didn't have money, but she didn't call, she didn't report, she didn't respond. So am I to just, is it your position that I should just dismiss the case maybe? Because her plan is to move in with a criminal who's appeared in front of this court numerous times, whose name is well familiar. And as you know, Mr. Patterson, you've been at this a long time. Usually if they have a criminal record and they move in with somebody with a criminal record, it goes downhill. Now, Miss Terry Haynes may have reformed, and I hope she has. Great for her if she has. But I think Mr. Smith, as a probation officer for the court, should be given time to check into that. I think you're telling me that I cannot make her serve her sentence.
Absolutely not, Judge. I would not tell the court that. I'm asking the court to take into consideration that she has very few options because of her indigency.
And I am. I'm very much wanting to take that into consideration. But if I turn her loose to a homeless shelter, I don't think she's going to be very successful. And if I turn her loose with someone who has more criminal problems than she has, I don't think she's going to be very successful. So I just want Mr. Smith to have a week or two to find that out. I mean, that's in lieu of just saying, serve your time.
Understood, Judge.
Mr. Sweeney, am I being unreasonable here?
No, Your Honor, I mean, I would agree that reporting is pretty fundamental to the success of probation. And I think, you know, the individuals that probationers live with or fraternize with is certainly something that comes within the purview of the courts. I will tell the court that according to Ms. Norris's notes, the state was going to recommend time served as a sanction. It doesn't say necessarily what that time served was, but I'll leave it at that, I guess.
Is Ms. Norris available? Because if the state's not recommending she serve any consequence for her violation, I'll certainly consider that.
Well, I certainly don't think that's the case, Your Honor. I mean, I think there's a contemplation of the time that she spent awaiting hearing on the warrant, whatever that time is, was contemplated as a sanction. So we certainly, I certainly don't want it to sound like the state's not recommending any punitive sanction here for her violations, because we are. But I just wanted to tell the court what the notes are in the file as reflected by Ms. Norris. And it's time served as a sanction. Now, whether that's time served as a sanction up until today or October 16th, I mean, obviously that's not necessarily contemplated. And I would agree it's within the purview of the court. If the court is not comfortable with the living situation, I think the court can extend the sanction. I think that's well within the court's discretion, if that's the question.
Mr. Sweeney, are you familiar with Terry Haynes?
The name sounds familiar, Your Honor, but as far as anything specific, no.
And Judge, I did look her up on Odyssey. Her last case was in 2019. That was a criminal damage to property. And that case was closed. So I'm not sure she has any open cases.
She's been in front of me since 2019. When was it closed?
April 21, 2021, probation was terminated.
In 21? Okay, that's been 2 years. And why has your client been indigent? In this day and age, it's pretty easy in this community to find jobs. People are begging for employment in every sector.
Because Douglas doesn't really afford the opportunity. So that's why she's going to be in Augusta now. So she has better opportunities for that, even fast food.
Well, she told me she was going to move to Douglas to live with her mother, but they didn't get along.
Her mom lives in a Douglas, Judge.
But was she living with her mother when she was in violation of probation? I thought she was.
Off and on. She was homeless, but they didn't get along. So she would spend some time there.
But again, I haven't heard why didn't she go to Augusta and get a job? I mean, people are begging for jobs, and I'll bet I could drive into Douglas right now and find signs.
Walking to Douglas, Judge, or walking to Augusta from Douglas was just not practical.
No, it's not practical, but I would venture to guess if you walked into Douglas right now, you could find even as small and limited as this, there's probably somebody looking for help. But I don't know. I'm not trying to be unreasonable. I'm not trying to pick on a woman for being indigent. But I just want to make sure she's going to be successful on probation. And if she doesn't have a good, suitable home to live in, then we're not giving her a chance. Now, if her sister, I believe she said, Terry Haynes has reformed and has not been in any trouble or substance abuse since at least 21, then that's great. And she might be able to help her. But I can't see the harm in letting Mr. Smith check it out and make suggestions. He could have made suggestions to her while she was on probation if she'd stayed in contact with him. Did she not have a cell phone during this time?
I don't have that answer, Judge. I'm sorry.
Well, can we just ask her if she had a cell phone?
Ms. Haynes,
Beth wasn't my probation officer for one. And no, I did not have a cell phone. I was, at the time, like I said, I wasn't taking this seriously. So your answer to that question is no, I did not.
All right, she wasn't taking it seriously.
At that time, I did not.
All right, what's the state's recommendation?
Your Honor, I think I've already told the court what Ms. Norris put in the file. I don't have any.
I know, but what is your recommendation on whether I turn her loose on probation today or let Mr. Smith check it out?
Your Honor, I think the court is well within its means to continue this case to make sure that the living situation is appropriate, and I guess the state would recommend that as well. If the court has that concern, I think that you're well positioned to continue the case, and so the state would recommend that as well.
And Mr. Patterson, your recommendation, plain, simple, in a sentence or two is?
Judge, I would just ask the court to recall last Monday, the court was pretty close to just letting her out to go to a homeless shelter, but hesitated. I think the court had in mind that the time she served was sufficient as a sanction, as a first probation violation in the case. So there was going to be another chance for her. The court wanted to have some assurance she had a chance to be successful. And that's what she has done by finding a place to live in a town where there's going to be fast food places that she can immediately get employment and work. So we're just asking the court to consider 1-year reinstatement
Today.
today. But Judge, it is your authority to keep her in there for another review hearing. If the court doesn't want to do it today, then we'd ask the court to set it for another review hearing.
All right. And Mr. Smith, I think I've heard you say that you'd like to check it out before you just took her on probation.
Your Honor, this is Christine Donovan's probation I am covering for her. I know that Christine Donovan has some reservations about her being on probation, which is why the probation revocation was filed in the first place. So I believe it is a good idea just to ensure that she has a good, stable place to stay where she could make or have closer contacts for employment. So I think that it's a good idea.
All right. This matter is continued to October 16th at 9 a.m. And if there's nothing further, we'll be in recess until then. You may go. I guess she already has, Ms. Haynes. Okay, deputy, anyone else in jail?